Good evening. Tonight, I want to talk about hope. As we think about the times that we're living in right now, it's challenging. We are living with a lot of uncertainty. People are very distrustful. And so often we're quick to blame technology for a lot of these problems. So, and indeed, that's even reinforced by research and media headlines that talk about deceit and lies and bullying and all of the other horrible things that happen online, especially in social media. And a lot of that is true. But tonight, I want to talk about a social medium that provides a place of hope for quite a few people. And as I'm going to hope that I can get this to work. Aha! Tonight I want to talk about our digital selves and what we learn from avatars and how these avatars teach us about ability, identity, and even humanity. So as many of you, maybe you don't want to ever, this might be your only notion of Avatar. And the movie Avatar, James Cameron's movie with, of course, Jake Sully, who's the Marine veteran who's disabled, who becomes the Avatar and goes to Pandora. What a name. To Pandora, where he can live this incredible life and do things that his human being can no longer do. So while this is Hollywood, now remember also at the end, he chose his virtual world over his physical world. And I would say that there are people in the disability community who find that very dystopic. And what I would like to say is that I'd like to introduce you to people who are using virtual worlds right now, not in Hollywood. It's not a fantasy, but they're using it, and not in dystopic ways, but in ways that provide hope and opportunity and meaning in ways that most people would never think of these spaces. So there are about 500,000, 500,000 people currently playing, working, creating, building communities and building relationships in this virtual world called Second Life. And I'd like to invite you to my living room. In this living room, we have a group of people who've been meeting for about 7 years. And oops, there is not a pointer on this one. In the center of the room, the gentleman in the red, white, and blue sweater is Tom Boellstorff, who's cultural anthropologist at UC Irvine. He is my colleague working on the body of research that we're doing in the virtual world. Next to him is Solace, a woman who is a fashion designer who was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's in her 40s. She lives in a very rural community in the US where she can no longer work, she cannot drive, but she has rebuilt a career by designing clothes, her passion for avatars, and they're remarkable. Talk about creativity. Next to her is a very thin young me, and I tried to make her bigger and wrinkled, but it just doesn't work. So next to me is Trey, a woman who's also an academic, who also has Parkinson's disease, can now only teach about one class online when she's able. But she has found the support community in the virtual world. Jillian, next to her on the other couch, has become a really dear friend. She lives locally, and she is now facilitating the support group in the virtual world. The gentleman who's back to us in the bottom corner, D.B. Bailey, is an architect, and he's not just any architect. DB was managing partner with Frank Gehry and Associates when they built the Disney Concert Hall in LA. It's considered one of the great architectural designs and feats of the modern world. That was his project before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. He's now doing architecture in the virtual world in some really remarkable ways as a retired man with Parkinson's. Then next to him are Barbie and Fran on the couch next to Tom. I'm going to talk a lot about Fran tonight. She's a 90-year-old woman with Parkinson's who introduced me to this group of people. And her daughter Barbie created this space when she saw the benefits of her mother being able to be in the virtual world, doing Tai Chi, watching her avatar do Tai Chi, gaining more confidence in her ability to move in the physical world. And she would come to life with a social connection that she could get here that was no longer really accessible for her in the physical world. But we are real people. This is all of us all over again. We have Barbie, we have Trey, Solus, DB, me, and our beloved unsinkable Fran. She calls herself Unsinkable Fran. At 90 years old, we flew from all around the country to celebrate her 90th birthday with her. If you want to say that these aren't real worlds, I would beg to differ. These are real friendships. We are like family now, and we've been meeting together, like I've said, for about 7 years. Through this work, Tom and I started to work with the National Science Foundation with a broader population of people with disabilities. And those represent people with both visible and invisible disabilities. And we've got about 30 people that are working with us on this grant. We are doing ethnographic research. So we are embedded, if you will, in this community where we share life, events, meetings, time, discussions, one-on-one, with people to really learn what it means to have a virtual body and what kind of effect does that have on the human body. And we're finding pretty remarkable results. So this is just an image from one of our group meetings in the virtual world, where what it means to be an avatar here, it's not just pixels. In the virtual world, you can actually buy hair and clothes and bodies. And we do hear you in the virtual world. I hear them whispering. But some people would say this is dystopic, it's escapist, they're escaping their real life for this weird cartoon. But let me tell a quick story about attending an event with this group of people where there's an organization that raises money for people with disabilities who really don't have any money to spend on virtual homes and trees and chairs and TVs. And one of the people was saying how grateful they were for the organization and for this social platform because they were homebound. And somebody else said, homebound? I'm roombound. And a third person said, roombound? What about bedbound? So as we think about the things we might take for granted every day, there are people who are homebound, roombound, and bedbound who have an entire world open up for them through something as simple as a laptop or a home computer and PC, where they can engage in communities in truly remarkable ways. And one of the people in the community said, you know, we're not abnormal people, we're normal people in abnormal bodies. So how many of us feel like we are trapped in bodies or in places where we're really not able to be our most authentic self? And this is something we hear so often. And one of the things that I heard from Fran when I sat with her in our apartment in California, and she said, she just comes to life when she logs in, and she says, this is the real me, not the me trapped inside of this body that won't do what her body used to be able to do. And it's not just people with disabilities. Think about those people who might be transgender, who live in a place where if they were to come out, they'd be killed for it. There are lots of reasons that people are not allowed to live their most authentic self. And this is a safe place where many people are allowed to express themselves in ways they simply can't, whether it's because they can't physically or by any number of cultural barriers. For example, Shyla the super gecko is one of the people in our community. She chose to create a gecko for her avatar because she didn't really want to be defined by her body. Her human body wears braces on her legs. She has multiple disabilities. But in the virtual world, she's a super gecko complete with a cape and superpowers. You can fly in a virtual world after all. But imagine if walking were a superpower. And you have people like Cody, who's 32 with cerebral palsy. And we traveled with Cody and Solus, our fashion designer, to meet with the leaders of Linden Lab and High Fidelity, the leaders in developing social platforms for the new VR goggles that you see on the media all over the place now. And we wanted them to be thinking about accessibility for people like Cody. And he explained that he needed text capabilities in these worlds because, which he can actually do. See the phone mounted to the bar on his wheelchair. He actually types with his nose on the phone, and that shows up as text chat in the virtual world. So he said to the folks, the leaders at Linden Lab and High Fidelity, that was really important to him because when he speaks in the virtual world with cerebral palsy, he's very difficult to understand. And people immediately make judgments about his intellectual capabilities because of the way he speaks. Whew. He's a brilliant, kind, very witty young man. His mind is entirely there. He just can't express it the way we normally perceive, the way we communicate in our bodies. There's Gator, Daisy the Gator. She's a wheelchair-bound dwarf in the UK who also happens to be a science fiction writer. She's fabulous. Of course, you saw my avatar, tall, thin, young, beautiful. That's the template that when you create an account, that's what they look like. She didn't feel normal or right, so she made her avatar a little person. So it felt more like her. She went back to her friends, and they laughed at her and said, "You look stupid. Why did you do that?" Huh. So even those things that we carry with us, the visual biases that we have when we look at somebody, all the isms, whether it's ageism, weightism, sexism, racism, ableism, you can kind of break all of those stereotypes in a virtual world where you can choose your body. She created a small gator that she figured out how to design a crown, a crawfish, keychain dangling from her teeth and dresses, and she became Daisy the Gator. And as she roams the virtual world, people say, "Oh, you are so cute." They're willing to accept her as a little gator before they're willing to accept her as a little human. What does that say about us? So as people talk about dystopic technology, and of course popular culture reinforces that, as Ready Player One, the best-selling novel, is about to be a Steven Spielberg film where people get completely lost in the virtual world. And if you've watched the hit Netflix Black Mirror, it talks about the terror of technology. What I'm trying to do tonight is remind you that there is also a good side, which leads me, this is my avatar again, where I'm trying to look at and explore what are the positive sides of this? How can we use these technologies for good and to represent ourselves and others in ways that can be meaningful, positive, and productive and connecting? Which takes me back to Fran. Fran can put on a ball gown. Her son, who lives on the other side of the country, could log in and put on his tux and take his mother ballroom dancing. That's something the physical world simply will not allow her to do anymore. So what does that mean to us? What I challenge you to do is think about your authentic self or the people in your life who perhaps have had, who may be trying to find their spirit again. And Fran is one of those people, unsinkable Fran, who is so brave and so exciting. She's 90 years old, challenging these technologies and teaching us what it means to live an authentic life. But rather than talking about her, let's talk to her. So, let's see if we can make all of this work. And there they all are waiting for us. This is the living room all over again. And you can see here is Trady Felissimo.
Hey, that's Jay Stu.
And we have Barbie and Fran. Fran to my right here. Fran, if you would just please share with us for a moment, what all of this means to you.
Well, this is a very good and loyal friends that I have found here. It's a place where we understand one another and we're comfortable and we show respect for one another. There'll be no pity parties here, not allowed. There's just love and hugs. That's all I have to say, Trady.
Fran, you know we
Back
love
to
you.
Thank you. There's lots of love here.
And Tom, where is Tom? Here is, once again, we have Shyla, the super gecko. Thank you for showing up, Shyla. And Tom, my co-PI here. And you can see as well.
Hello, everyone.
So say hello, everybody. And folks in the virtual world, say howdy.
Howdy. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi to everyone.
So there we are in the virtual world with our the people that I've come to know as friends, family, colleagues who live. Alumnia is in Europe. Drax is in Europe. Tom Barbie, let's see, Limza is in Europe. We've got people all around the United States, and there's actually somebody there who I was hopeful would have been in the room tonight who lives right here in Portland. It's a tiny world, and it's a huge world, but here we can do it all together.
That's lovely. Yeah. There.